I'm here on this beach in a very remote part of southern Thailand, a little known beach called Wako Beach. It's a very special place, not very well known today, but it's a very special place from the point of history. A spectacular eclipse took place right here on the 18th of August, 1868. And it set center stage for a whole load of people from around the world to assemble and conduct a scientific expedition. It's also a part of my book, my second book of the trilogy, Karma and Diamonds. Second book, The Web of Karma, in which I'm exploring a number of past lives. One of those past lives turns out to be an admiral in the French Navy in the 1800s. I thought this was really strange. Why was I being shown this? Why was this being revealed to me, this particular past life? My quest to understand this leads me, first of all, to a meditation in which I'm told to gather some specific information. And that specific information I found in the British Library in London. Then I'm taken to a tiny, obscure village in the desert of New Mexico in America. And finally, I find myself here today in a remote beach, little known, in southern Thailand. Why was this past life significant? And why has it taken me so many years to put all the different pieces together? On this beach here, a phenomenal scientific expedition took place on the 18th of August, 1868, when the eclipse was about to happen. It wasn't just any expedition. It was one in which the leading navies of the world were involved. They were all competing for the glory, the big prize. That would be the particular discovery of the day. A fleet of more than 20 warships, mostly British and French, filled this bay that you can see right behind me. The French were here, the Americans were here, the British were here, all hosted by an extraordinary king, King Mongkut, as he was known, also as Rama IV. He's been made into a legend through a story that we know very well on the West End of London and on our screens. That story is the story of The King and I, when the tutoress Anna Leonowens, who was believed to be English but was in fact Welsh, taught the children of this particular king. He was passionate about forwarding science and particularly astronomy. Also a devout Buddhist, he was keen to eliminate superstition from religion, and he really wanted to bring back and revive the ancient Sanskrit texts that he had been studying over many, many years. The king was here with his courtiers, his queens, his princes and princesses. There were around 1,000 people on this beach on that day. He had even constructed a temporary palace 3 stories high, especially for this occasion. That experiment that took place right here on this beach on the 18th of August 1868 was to prove a scientific theory that had been proposed by a famous French scientist called Flammarion. He worked at the Paris Observatory, and that's an observatory not too dissimilar to the one that we have in Greenwich in London. His theory was that the sun is just like any other star, and that these stars produce the materials that the planets are made of, and therefore also the materials that living beings are made of. Scientists had just invented the spectrometer, and they used spectrometry as a way of analyzing materials. But they weren't sure if spectrometry would work to analyze the materials that were not close by, physically right at hand, and certainly not when things were as far away as the sun, which is what they were going to do on this particular day. The concept of flying didn't yet exist, let alone space travel. That's the place from which they were operating. So they had no hope of ever going outside of our planet and studying what was there or not there, and so what we were made of. During a total eclipse, when the moon is in front of the sun, the only thing that you can see are the flares of the sun. This is the only moment that you can be sure that what you're analyzing are the contents of the solar flares and not anything else. This is very important because they didn't know what was burning on the sun at the time and where those flames were actually coming from. But what they did know was that there was a lot of hydrogen on the sun. And having discovered helium now, something significant happened which enabled them to move forward. Later on, they were able to piece together that there was an unknown process that was turning hydrogen into helium. This was significant because this was the birth of nuclear physics. In addition, during this experiment, right here on this beach, they also found lots of other materials in the sun. Basically, all the building blocks of the planets, including planet Earth, and of its living beings, are already existing on the sun. They understood that somehow the sun must be producing those materials, although they didn't quite understand how. They also understood something else that proved to be of significance. They discovered that the sun is just another star. It was relegated to being just an average star, far from being special, from being the center of the universe, or from being the sun god. The irony is that at the same time, science did prove that actually the sun is the creator of Earth and of mankind. Not through divine intervention though, but through physical and chemical processes. It was here, through that experiment, that the phrase, "we are made of stars," was born. We now had the first glimpse of the metaphysical connection between the universe and all living beings. This experiment was about not disproving religion, but rather it was a metaphysical quest to understand the connection between us and the stars and the whole universe. So, what does all of this have to do with me? Having discovered a past life as the French admiral who led this expedition, I realized that this was just a part of that particular lifetime, was just a part of my ongoing quest to understand the nature of who we are and where we've come from. It took me a while to understand why I've been shown the information about that particular lifetime. What I realized, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is that while it's important to understand the universe, in fact, the universe is already within us. We are made of stars. And indeed, we are each and every one a star. The important thing we must do, however, is to find the light within that illumines us and become a living expression of it.